Good afternoon to you all. Thank you for taking time to be with us this afternoon. My name is Eric Saulo. I am the Director, Alumni Relations Office, and will be your host this afternoon in this very exciting session that is being led by one of our alumni and a very successful entrepreneur. Will be taking to us through the topic of branding. To moderate this session, we have one of our staff members, Dr. Beatrice Njeru from the School of Humanities and Social Studies, who will moderate the session and help us benefit through what we're going to learn this afternoon. For the alumni, this is a session that we organize monthly as part of continuous learning. The theme of the university this year is lifelong learning and personalized attention. And so we are having these monthly sessions to help each and every one of us learn something, help us improve. And we are bringing in our alumni who are experts to take us through these master classes. Last month, we had a session on communication. And this month, today, we are talking about personal branding. So before we begin, a few housekeeping issues. We have the chat box. And so we'd like you to share your expectations of this session, share your thoughts, your comments as Eva takes us through her ideas and presentation. You can put your comments there. You can also type your questions, and our moderator and the team will make sure we get them to Eva to answer them. We will have a question and answer session towards the end so that we can respond to your questions and comments. This session is being recorded, and we will share it with you in a couple of days after this masterclass. So I want to welcome Beatrice Njeru, our moderator, so that then she can start us off. Welcome, Beatrice.
Thank you, Eric. Very lovely to see everybody who has attended this session. It's going to be a beautiful session. I am definitely looking forward to listening to our guest, Eva Muraya. Eva is a big name. In fact, in keeping with the session that we have today, I dare say that Eva is a brand. She's a brand by herself, and she will tell us how she got to where she is today and the things that she's currently working on to strengthen her brand. She is an amazing speaker as well. Eva's timeline is huge, and in fact, if we were to spend the entire hour talking about her background, we would not be done because there are many things that are under her belt. I'm just going to highlight a few, and then when she joins us, she will tell us a bit more. Indeed, as Eric has said, she is alumni of the AMP program from the Strathmore Business School. She has fascinating stories to tell us, and I'm sure she will bring on board some of them as she talks to us about the personal branding area. She went to Alliance High School, and again, there are many stories she will bring on board about her time there. And she has a background in journalism and marketing. She's got a good story to tell about her internship opportunity at BAT. And after that, she went to work at the Standard Group. But I think one of the things that I found most amazing as I listened to various things that have been talked about Eva is that she is the face and the name behind the brand FedEx. But she has gone on to build very many companies in terms of their brands, but also her own business ventures, and she'll talk to us about it. Another fascinating element about Eva is that she's a creative, she's an actress, musically gifted, and she's got a lot to talk about her acting career. Eva also sits on several boards, and I know she's very passionate about charity and especially charitable organizations that work with the underprivileged. I think without further ado, it's great to hear from Eva herself. The way this session that we'll run is that will listen to Eva, then we will have an opportunity to ask her the questions that we would desire. But more importantly, I think we need to give her the attention and the time that she deserves. Eva Muraya, karibu sana to address the alumni of Strathmore University.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. Oh my goodness, you've been digging me up. Eh? You have been digging me up, singing and acting and being at Alliance. So now you're the one making me say I went to Alliance. You know what I mean? But good afternoon, all of you. I'm so humbled to see how many people have dialed onto this call to have this engagement around personal branding. Thank you so much, Eric, and your team for reaching out to me. Indeed, I am a proud alumni of the Strathmore Business School, spent a delightful year then, a little while ago, actually, 2008. But even over the years, I have kept coming back and I have kept coming back. And so I'm absolutely honored to be here this afternoon. And the topic that you have given me is huge. Because, you know, things and situations metamorphose very frequently. But perhaps just to create a little context, I am an entrepreneur. And yes, Alliance is where I really caught many of the values that I practice today. We'll be speaking about that as we delve deeper into the discussion of personal branding. I was born in Nairobi at the Kenyatta National Hospital. I grew up with my grandparents. So that will come in the discussion. There's importance of why I am sharing that. Much loved grandchild to my grandmother and my grandfather. They raised me for the long haul, raised by a single mother, and there is a reason I am sharing that. And then at some point I got married, and I am a mother of 2 daughters. So I have been surrounded by very strong women in my growing up. I went to a girls only high school, so that also is an import, and a mother of daughters. And I'm going to be sharing why that is important in speaking around my personal brand. But yes, having graduated in journalism and marketing, I opted not to be a published journalist. I decided to pursue the commercial side of it and got quickly into communications. So the whole world of creating advertising and public relations, building brands, and I've done that with much success over the years. So my career has essentially been about that. But at some point in that journey, I found that the socialization that I had enjoyed as a young child, and then life's experiences began to craft for me some persuasions. So as I think through and as I have thought about my career, I am now 20 years as an entrepreneur this year, so I have a lot to celebrate. The company that I currently own and run, which I'll be sharing a little bit about in a bit, is 10 years now. So in the 20 years, I've found that my path has been crafted into 3 specific areas. The first is, you know, the whole craft of brand and comms is my default. But at a persuasion level, I am nuts about women's economic empowerment. And I make very little apology for that. I have in my life watched a grandmother struggle to raise several of us, and then my own mother. Things were tough, and in my young mind didn't understand that it was a macro environment that perhaps made it all the more harder for her. So I completely love promoting an awareness and an agenda for women, and also developing youth. I'm a beneficiary of a lot of love that was imposed me over time. Enjoyed being sponsored to school, paid for by perhaps extended family and others. So that benefit that then took me through a very good education was a gift of love from many people. And then the third area is I am also very committed and have spent a lot of my life promoting awareness and support for children living with disability. So you will find that I have framed my personal brand behavior pretty much around that parameter. If you will invite me and it will be about youth development, I will say yes. Most times now, I will say yes. If you will invite me and it is something to promote the space of children with disability, I will say yes. And we will be talking about personal statement definition. And so I'm an entrepreneur running a community of agencies today. And I must say, the reason that I love to be here today is that the company that I run now, and I will be sharing very little about it, was actually crafted during my AMP program on a napkin. Yes, I created BSD at Strathmore Business School. On one afternoon, my aha moment just showed up, and the rest is history. We've had a very successful 10 plus years run. Many people have been trained and developed under BSD Group, birthed on a napkin. And, Dr. Jenga and Mungai will confirm that. So I think what I would like to do, Beatrice, is perhaps just, I had put together a few slides. Mm-hmm. I'll speak through my personal story, even as I present a few principles and thoughts in the interest of time. And I'll try and keep that as brief as possible so that we can spend a lot more time on the question and answer session, if that's okay. Daniel, if you're with me, you can just help me with my slides so that we can get very quickly into the discussion. And like I said, this is a rather wide subject, something that perhaps can carry on as a series, but I thought to just put together a few thoughts to share with you, and through the alumni office, we can continue having the conversation based on merit. So Beatrice and team asked me to speak about the blueprint of reinvention. And I'm thinking, Beatrice, that the prompter to this discussion really was, what a new world we are living in today. Many are aware that there has been a lot of disruption because of the new norm. Today you are this in terms of your career, but the new norm now calls for a different thinking. How do you circumvent that and build a personal brand that is strong and durable? So I'm hoping that by the end of this session, we'll be able to have covered a lot of that, okay? So let me just quickly plug that I come here with the permission of BSD Group, which is our company. BSD Group, like I told you, was invented, created, thought about, dreamt about during my AMP program. It comprises 4 businesses. We have BSD, which is the strategy side of our consultancy. That is really what was birthed here. And in that time, the 10, 11 years, we have built successful businesses under Avid Public Relations, which is your, it's one thing to build a strategy, but you need to activate the strategy. And these 3 other businesses are really how we activate the strategy. Avid PR provides the third-party credential driver. So who is endorsing you? Who is saying you are what you claim? That is what we do under Avid. Whiteboard gives a visual language, an audio language, because we need to be able to associate at that level with the brand that is claimed under the strategy. And then Brand Code Africa is where we work with with different organizations to build the talent, because like as we will be discussing in the things that I want to share very quickly, brand is truth. It is one thing for an organization to stand on top of a highest mountain and claim something, but it is in the experience of it, and experience is delivered through the talent economy. So very quickly, and I don't want to spend any more time on BSD, that is who we are. And you know, you talked about, Beatrice, you said, you know, where has the journey taken you? We recently launched, for the first time ever, the top 100 most loved brands by women in Kenya study in partnership with Ipsos. Never been thought before. And as I speak around personal branding, I'll be coming back to this as a demonstration of how it is possible through the chaos that we've been dealing with, the new norm, to say what will differentiate me. So in introducing this, for example, one of the drivers of this was the last almost 20 years of my career. We have, as a business, whether in a previous business that I owned and ran, Color Creations in partnership, or now in BSD, focused a huge deal in prompting businesses to have a consciousness around the woman consumer, because she's a huge influencer of a purchasing decision or a transactional conversion. And in therefore our business standing to claim we best understand a woman consumer, it is informed by many of the things the team leader at BSD has done, maybe being the chair of the KEPSA Gender and Youth Sector Board, maybe being a co-founder of the Kenya Association of Women Business Owners. So it is truthfully something that BSD can then go to the market to advocate. We will be coming back to making an alignment around your personal claim to what is truth, because brand must always be true. So I don't want to be presumptuous and say that all 140, 50 of us on this call understand brand. Just indulge me a few minutes as I get into very, very quick definition of BSD's understanding of what brand is. And it has not just happened. I mean, we've been branding for a very long time. When we were herding, or when even we heard, you will find that you will, you know, my grandfather, I said I grew up with my grandparents. My grandfather used to have like a sort of ceremony when he buys new cows. There'll be a Saturday morning when he will be branding them, and he will say, this one is called Maria, so it will have an M on it. Or this one is called Margaret. I don't know why all his cows had to be named after the queen, but you know, that's a story for another day. But notwithstanding, you know, there is a way in which the emblem, that visual identity that we place, begins to define it different from any other that we probably are looking at. Okay, let's move on. So there have been, you know, experts in our trade, in our craft, different definitions of what brand is. But I think the one that I would want for us to take into the discussion is probably, and I've inferred, brand is a promise made and a promise kept, because this is so, so true when you think through the principles of personal branding, or that a brand does not exist until it exists in the mind of its customer. That there has to be a special place in my brain, in my mind, where I place Strathmore Business School or I place Strathmore University for it to then be a brand. But when it is outside of my psyche, you're busy saying you have a brand. Me, your customer, your consumer, your prospective consumer, mteja hapatikani, then you know that it isn't a brand as long as I have it residing cerebrally in my mind. Okay, so just some classic definitions. I need to be a brand in somebody who I am interested in by residing and domiciling on the right side of their cerebral cognition. Okay, let's move on. So just very, very quickly, there are 4 principles that we must always remember. First, let's think about brand when you know, like there are cows, and then there is Maria, my grandfather's favorite cow, or there is Margaret, my grandfather's favorite cow. And with all due respect to those who may be Maria and Margaret on the call, no pun intended. When we have cows, those are commodities. That's like a generic cows. But when you begin to say Maria, then attributes around Maria begin to create some favorability that needs to drive elements of trust, familiarity, and value. Let's just unbundle that real quick, Daniel. So in order to build a brand, and this will also apply in personal branding, differentiation is key. What is different about your brand? Why should I matter? Why should I care more for it than the other one that's being proposed to me? So differentiation, when you are thinking about branding, is non-negotiable. And why? Because differentiation builds favorability. If you look at this slide that I am showing, you'll find that perhaps visually, our eye is directed to the red spot. That's because of this principle that is true. When you are different, there is a sense in which favor follows you, and I mean a positive favorability. Let's move on. And then when you have been favored because of your difference, you must then employ consistency. Brands must be consistent. You cannot tell me you are one thing in January, you are one thing in April, and then you're quite another in August. Consistency, when you are a corporate brand, product brand, personal brand, builds trust. I begin to trust you because then there is a dependability around the claim that you are making. It isn't enough to be different or consistent. You must then build awareness. Why? So that we become familiar with you. Awareness of your brand will drive familiarity, and that's a non-negotiation. And then the more familiar you are to me, because you are consistent and you created a positive differentiation, then you will find that there is a reputational thing going on around you that builds value. In the context of personal branding, this value is social capital. This value is you walk into a bank, they know who you are, you can negotiate with them based on the value that you carry around you, either as a corporation, you as a person, Okay, let's move on. Okay, and I think this is now really what I was talking about, using the case of, you know, you are called sugar when you are a commodity, but you are then called, shall I say Mumias? Shall I say Nzoia brand? Got it? So this is just, you know, at a very, very elementary level of understanding then, and then we import it into the reality of personal branding. So we could then quickly quote Seth and say that a brand's value is merely the sum total of how much extra people will pay, or how often they will choose your brand, the expectations, the memories, the stories, relationships of one brand over the alternatives. And look at this. Brands are relational, and this is what people must understand. You know, do I have a relationship with this brand that is being proposed to me? And will this brand invest in creating a relationship with me? So that sum total delivers for me the real value of brand, okay? So we thought this was really interesting. You know, you'll go to, I don't know where you will go, you'll ask for coffee, they'll put it in a mug like this, and then they'll say 80 bob. Imagine when you then call it Java. Something just persuades your psyche, your whole self, to feel confident to part with 200 bob, perhaps for the same quality of coffee, if not. Okay, so the value of brand, you cannot dismiss. And this is why this conversation is really, really important for us as alumni. So let's move on. And brands, yes, can be products. Okay, brands can be products. In our top 100 most loved brands by women, it was amazing to see Aramis. I don't know how many girls we have on this call, but if you know, something tells me every single girl in this country's got Aramis in her handbag. It made top 10 of most loved brands by women in Kenya. Did you even know of Aramis? But those who use it know it, okay? It could even be Moturaya Njenga in the mtaa. It's Moturaya Njenga. Motura, commodity, Moturaya Njenga, brand, okay? So products can be brands, okay? What else can be brands? So products and services can be brands. Companies can be brands, okay? We know that, okay? Places can be brands. You just need to see some of these images and immediately you know where this is, okay? And you will find that they have differentiated, okay? They've been consistent in their differentiation so that they have driven trust. They've built familiarity, okay, by building awareness, and the value of it would then you're willing to part. And presence can be brands. And this is what I want for us to spend some time. I mean, look at these brands right here. I mean, it is non-negotiable. Look at the president of Tanzania in a very short time. You know, something about her personal brand has truly begun to endear itself, not just to Tanzanians, not just to East Africans, but indeed to the rest of the world, okay? I had to put in Christiana, so just understand that we may have a conversation after this to go along with. And yes, indeed, causes can be branded. Causes can be branded. We hear of Beyond Zero, and immediately there's personal conversations going on in our mind. We hear Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon, there's conversations in our minds going on. We hear about Wings to Fly, there's conversations. Brands are very personal, okay, in the way that we consume them, and they can sit on the right side of the cerebral appreciation or quite on the contrary. Let's quickly get into personal branding so that we get into questions, okay? Now, in the new world that we live in, and when I say new, this world that was, you know, previously just native media in communication or native channels of communication, there's been fierce competition. I mean, first, there's so much clutter, there's so much being thrown at us, there's so many messages being thrown at us. So just the whole idea of standing out from the crowd is in itself quite an assignment, okay? So differentiation here becomes the real deal. But once you've differentiated, how then do you deliver on its articulation? Because then you are moving nearer the standing out from the crowd than before, okay? And I know without a doubt that the more differentiated on the positive your personal brand is, the more you will be able to stand out, the more you will be sought after as a professional, the more corporations will want you to be on their boards, the more they will want you to be their brand ambassador, etc. Okay, so there is a consciousness and an intentionality in creating that, and we must then know what the principles behind that are. Okay, and by virtue of us positioning ourselves that way, we are driving our credibility. We're talking a whole sense of differentiation, and at the end of the day, there will be personal benefit to you, not necessarily financial, preferably, but so much more: social capital, honor, and others. Okay. just a quick 4 pieces on personal brand and the issues around skill identity. You know, in personal branding, there's things around when do I say and when don't I say, okay? Communicating around your personal brand must be informed by having clarity around the things one wants to be known for. So it's really like thinking through your business or your product and coming up with a strategy for it. So one has to figure out, what is it that I want as an individual, as a person, as a personal brand to be known for and identified, associated with, okay? You need to network. Okay, what's your expertise? What are you good at? What do you want to be known? What do you want to be excellent around? So, as Eva, I'm a brand strategist, and I love it. I love to help brands better innovate, reposition, better clarify their brands. But alongside that, I also really love to promote causes of women, causes of children with disability, causes of youth. How have I then done that? I have associated myself with women's business associations or with the gender instruments available to me. I've had the honor in these last 4 years of chairing the KEPSA Gender and Youth Sector Board. And whilst having that privilege, created deliverables that end up confirming what it is that I have been for, okay? So communicating, networking, and so we also talked about values, okay? Your promise and reputation as an individual, okay? What is your value system, okay? I talked about growing up with my grandparents, going to a really good school like the one I went to in high school, Alliance. The values will speak truth to power when it comes to your personal brand. What's your personal value system? Do you know it? Do you have it crafted? Do you spend sessions to remind yourself what these values are? Really, really critical. Why? Because you then must remember that in building differentiation, the consistency of the person you are will then export as your personal brand based on your value set, okay? And then of course, issues around your speciality are part of defining who you will be understood to be under your personal brand, but we will amplify these further as we move along. Okay, let's move on. And it is important because we want to stand out from the crowd. It's a competitive environment that we operate. It's cluttered. There's many good people, just as good as we are. How do you then get better? Is it because you will have claimed a different accreditation academically? Is it because you will have served or volunteered for a cause? Is it because you will have engaged a different specialty skill? Is it because you will have done something in community and that earns you the merit of standing out from the crowd? How will you stand out from the crowd? When we understand the importance of personal branding, it then leads to opportunities. People begin to headhunt for you. People begin to invite your opinion. The media begin to call out and say, can we quote you on this matter? And then it inspires trust in your audience. When your personal brand is clarified, is well understood, has been promoted, so people are aware about it, is consistent, people will be inspired by you. We want to come and listen to Dr. Manu Chandaria every time he is perhaps speaking at some place. We want to vote and say, yes, Lady Justice Martha Kome is the one. And when we now next hear in 2 weeks, she's going to be speaking somewhere, maybe we will all want to be there. It inspires trust in your audience. And then maybe we are saying, okay, Eva, we hear you, but you know, it's been a while. I've probably, you know, not really done much about it. And maybe I've even been messing around a little bit on social media, etc. How do you help to pivot? Okay. So we want to share about 6 different thoughts around this that might be resourceful. And one is researching and creating your personal branding statement. I know I have inferred it. Very early on in my life, I asked myself, what do I really want to be about? What do I want to do? What lemonades can I create out of some of the experiences that have been thrown at me? With your permission, Beatrice, just a little personal story. You probably want to know, how did I pick on maybe something like children with disabilities? I'm a mother of 2 daughters, one who has lived with cerebral palsy. She's 24 years old. And you don't carry a pregnancy with the expectation that you will have a child who's differently abled. All of us want to have a healthy baby. You know how they give you a baby after you've had it and they say, here, healthy bouncing baby. But Zawadi was born to my husband and I, and it was tough to know that she is differently abled. And as she grew into her first year and second year, we're looking around and realized nobody really, we could not even identify anybody who had a special needs child. We looked around and, you know, where do people go for help? Where do you consult? We were a young couple, but there was nobody. So Muraya and I decided, you know, could we maybe begin to do something? Maybe we should set up an institute. Maybe we should do something about this, so other babies being born to families, people don't have to struggle like we were struggling. We didn't even know the first thing about cerebral palsy. And that was a time when there wasn't internet in the way that we have it today, etc. You couldn't go to Dr. Google. Long story short, in tragic circumstances, my husband was involved in a motor accident, a fatal motor accident in 1999. So there you are, you've got 2 little kids, a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old. You have these dreams and ambitions, and then this life situation visits on you. How do you make some lemonade out of this? As I mourned and grieved and began to find my footing again, a year into Muraya's passing, I thought, wait a minute, Mike really wanted to do something and impact Kenya's children living with disability. Even the night he was in his accident, that was his dream and aspiration. Maybe what I could do, because he was such an ardent squash player, the 2 things that Muraya loved in the whole wide world included squash. I've always debated whether I was top 2, but story for another day. He loved squash, and he really wanted to do this to honor what God had visited on us around Zawadi. So there I was. I said, okay, I'm a brand person. Maybe we can create a memorial squash tournament, a charity event, raise awareness, and raise support for children and begin to contribute to infrastructure and et cetera, into rehabilitative care. And that led into 12, 13, 14, 15 years of squash tournaments that were hosted every year at the Parkland Sports Club. And around the personal branding was, you know, Mama Cerebral Palsy, something that happened there. But the point is, through this positioning and this purpose that I created for myself, along with Muraya's friends and along with my family, some definition came out of it that was impactful. So we researched, and then created something that would remain with us for the rest of time around building a consciousness, awareness, and support for persons living differently. Today, at KEPSA, that experience of not just being a mother to a differently abled child who's a gorgeous woman today, I have a lot of respect for her. The experiences of working in the underprivileged communities where a lot of these children are abandoned, locked up, etc., the engagements at strategic partnership level with corporates to come and contribute towards this cause has really capacitated me better in serving KEPSA. So research and create your personal branding statement, know it and stand by it because of the consistency, but speak about it so that you're building familiarity. And then reputationally, you are also exerting value. And then you build your personal branding strategy. This is who I'm going to work with. These are the channels that I will communicate. This is who I will involve. These are the partners that I want to keep, you know, and the story goes on. Okay. And then take stock of it, monitor, ask, what's the impact happening? So initially, if I just stay with the issue of the special needs, because they, you know, on the three things that I talked about, there's Awadi Africa, there's the Kenya Association of Women Business Owners that I was involved in for many, many years. I continue to be on the board, and then the special needs. We began with investing, maybe we partner with the Cerebral Palsy Society of Kenya for a period of time, so maybe 4 years, 5 years. We look around and see who else is there, and we pick them up and we invest with them. And that then begins to establish you differently. It begins to establish your positioning, and therefore that consistency begins to be, she's about cerebral palsy, and maybe she's not about mountain climbing, if you can see what I'm talking about, okay? And this begins to whip into one's ability to monitor your personal brand engagement, and then also developing your personal brand. So you will aim in today's day and age, unlike what it was before, you'll be able to share your personal brand through social media, through networking, through outreaches that you can get involved with. There's the Rotary clubs that we can be part of, and you can express your personal brand and engagement through some of these channels and speaking opportunities such as what I have been honored with this afternoon. Building your personal brand could even be about, you know, take time once a week, maybe thrice a week, blog about your persuasions, blog about the thing that you write about it, take a column in a newspaper, engage regularly, perhaps with a university community, get involved with your church, let your church know, you know, that this is an area of interest, and before you know it, this is what your personal brand will be about. And then, of course, you need to think through your communication plan. What channels will I work with? Where will I be best understood? The people who I need to pitch my story to, where are they located in terms of channeling? And therefore, how can I get onto that vehicle of communication, etc.? And then, of course, what you don't measure will never count. So just measure, create instruments of measurement, create feedback mechanisms, have an accountability group. I have girlfriends who I keep checking in on. I have mentors who I keep asking, what do you think about this? Did you think I was a little off? Do you think I should have pushed for this agenda? Was a little, you know, was I a bit rough on the edges on this? And these people, all 7 of them, will give you objective feedback that will be materially relevant, okay? So in terms of reinventing, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, the definition of your destination is non-negotiable. You can't be a personal brand that's all over the place. We want to be able, because when you're all over the place, then you're cluttering our mind, too many messages. We don't know what you're really about. And we will then move on to the other brand that is clarified in its way of positioning, okay? And then leverage your points of difference. Were there other mothers, parents of children with cerebral palsy? Answer is yes. What was our point of differentiation? And therefore, how did we leverage on it? point of differentiation, for example, was that we decided to be articulate and overt about it. There was nothing to apologize about. We were going to make sure that this thing that had visited on us in giving us a child differently able would, instead of keeping us sad and sorrowful and having a pity party, benefit more children, speaking to policymakers, begin to advocate for a better day. And then we married it with the memory of a man who truly committed his life to making a difference, albeit the shortness of his life, okay? And then develop a narrative, and you've just heard me share a narrative. What is your narrative? Create consistency around it, make it simple so that there is no confusion around what your narrative around your personal brand is. It's all right to reintroduce yourself. Before the 3rd of March, for example, I would not have introduced BSD as the company that has launched the inaugural top 100 most loved brands by women in Kenya study, okay? But as we have consistently said, we are nuts about brand building. We now got another cap that we can speak about with a lot of confidence. Equally at a personal level, reintroduce yourself and then prove your worth, because it's in the tasting of the pudding that matters. Don't just say you are this, demonstrate that you are this, because brand is truth. Brand will always be truth, okay? So as I head to a close, because I'd like for us to spend some time on questions, maybe some of you may be familiar with the fact that, you know, brands have often been told, or personal brands have often been talked about to be about what people say when you're not in the room. And when I say this, I mean it with respect. I'm talking about people who will be objective, people who will be speaking from a point of truth, and not necessarily be demeaning about the brand. But what do people say? What will people say when Eva's off this call? You know, what do people say when you're not in the room? Do they say, he's amazing, he's a collaborator, he's so innovative, he's a team player? These then begin to be the definers of our personal brands. We can't move ahead without her in the room. We can't pass it without her validation. We want him, her, they to be part of this conversation. So in personal branding, your self-awareness is non-negotiable. Just be comfortable with who you are. You know, I sit, Beatrice, and I sometimes look at what people say about themselves on social. I don't know everybody, but sometimes I'm looking and wondering, you're very different from what you state there. Brand is truth. So be self-aware and be comfortable with who you decide to be, okay? Show value. Otherwise, we'll forget you. We are looking for value from our experiences, value from our engagements, value from our strategic partnerships. Be the first to put your hand up and say, I've got it. Consider it done. And then communicate. You know, I'm a communication specialist, so communicate, 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 because the more we are telling our stories, the more likely for those stories to be remembered. There's just too much going on at us. It is possible that we don't retain all of it. So the more we communicate, the better, okay? You know, I know that on this call, we've got professionals, we've got students, alumni, we've got professors from the university. But this marketing guru, who I think I was first introduced to at Strathmore in 2008, or maybe by one of the faculty, Dr. Michael Goldman was one of my faculty when I was at Strathmore, really nailed it. That in an ideal world, the people are the brand. In an ideal world, the people are the brand. In other words, we can hear brands called, you name it, and we looked at them. It could be a brand called Google. It could be a brand called Safaricom. It could be a brand called Strathmore. it is the people, not the furniture, that are truly the brand. So personal brands, as we develop them in the collective, benefit organizations, benefit companies, benefit initiatives, benefit programs. And I think if all of us better understood it, we would all be much the better for it. In closing, let's just quickly look at those quick personal brand identity drivers, especially in the reality of our new world. Claim your name, irrespective, claim it, okay? You will be better appreciated and respected for driving thought leadership as opposed to not. You know, I know that there's probably a shift in terms of generations, and it's going on now under my eyes. I said, I have two daughters. I have a 28-year-old, I have a 24-year-old. But at the bottom of it, people will always respect polite and true and real and authentic. I see the behavior on social media, and I really worry about how far some of what I see that is claimed by a name or an identity will take them. But the more authentic one is, the more true you are, the more respectful you are of any channel that your personal brand lends to you, it emerges you ahead above shoulders. Promote colleagues in your industry. Validate them, celebrate them. Then that makes you stand out. Answer people's questions respectfully, politely. People remember you for that. You know, in social media, we have been dissuaded to believe that we are free to say it in any way, in any fashion. The truth of the matter is we still come back to the basics of human interaction and human engagement. So the way we package it, the strength in the tone of voice, the strength of our thoughts will keep us ahead above shoulders over anyone else. Post frequently so that there's the consistency and familiarity. And then you can also create visual continuity. So it's not just about things that you're saying, but things that can have a visual language. It makes it more interactive, more interesting. Leverage on events that are going on, the swearing in of the lady Chief Justice. I'm so proud of her. So you can hear me making good reference of that. Is something that perhaps we could use to leverage on. And then you use your multimedia disposition, because it's for us here to engage with. And generationally, that might not be very easy for everybody, but the more one does it, the better. And then clarity and consistency and simplicity of messaging makes it settle in the cerebral understanding much easier than if we are, you know, complicated in the way that we deliver. Okay, all right. So I'm really happy to have been invited to share just a few thoughts. I mean, this is a huge discussion, but I also wanted to just part by saying, those of you who read the Bible and those of you who are familiar with Christian scripture would probably recognize this beautiful, beautiful verse, that a good name is worth more than rubies. And different versions say it differently. Proverbs 22:1. Irrespective of time. You can imagine when this proverb was written many, many, many years ago. It still stands the test of time today in 2021. And I bet you, Beatrice and colleagues, it will continue to stand the test of time. I really want to thank all of you for your very, very kind attention, and I look forward to further interaction. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Eva. Incredible, incredible. I began this session by saying that we could listen to Eva for a long time. In fact, as I got carried away, I need to confess something, Eva. When I wanted to read a little about you, I thought to myself, oh, I'm just going to read a little. But I kept reading and reading and reading, and it kept going on and on and on, because every word is to hang on to. And I think this goes beyond what you do. It goes into the realm of gifting. It goes into the realm of passion. And we want to thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that validation.
Thank you. And I would like to invite all of you to give Eva a virtual clap. This is the world that we're in. If we were, in a room physically, we would all be clapping, and we would
Thank you
all
so
be
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Give her
Thank you very much.
ovation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You've said many, many beautiful things. And I just want to go through a few of those nuggets that I picked up, which I thought were amazing, as we wait for people to raise their questions on chat. Ladies and gentlemen, chat is open and you can raise your questions. It's a good idea to begin a talk with quotes. And I think I have got quite a number that I will begin with now from you, Eva. I like that you say brand is truth. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah,
brand is truth.
Yeah.
It's difficult to sustain a lie, and brands become brands because they have been sustained over time. So brand is truth is one of the ones that I got. And then another one is that the definition of your destination is not negotiable. I think, and you talked about personal awareness as not negotiable as well, because then these are the things that put in the brand together. A third one that I picked up is your brand building as about favorability, trust, familiarity, and value. I think that's beautiful as well. And so the questions that we will ask are around these things. You got me thinking, and you got me wondering, you see, in Strathmore, we're very many members of staff. But am I a member of staff of Strathmore, or am I brand Beatrice Njero? And I think that's a question that we continue to answer as we move on. And so I'm wondering, just in line with that, Eva, do we ever stop to build the brand?
Lovely question. Lovely. In fact, personal brand is a 25/8. Do you understand? Because if you heard me, I said you are part of the brand collective. Strathmore isn't anywhere without Beatrice and Eric and everybody else. You are what is the brand. In an ideal world, the people are the brand. If you say to Strathmore, take away all the faculty, here is your beautiful building. That I remember those days when we were fundraising to build it. And, if you said to Strathmore, take away the faculty, here is the building. They'll say, no, we want the faculty, you take away the building. Do you understand? Even though in branding, at BSD, we say label times meaning to the power of action is the brand. So label is the aesthetic, okay? Label times meaning to the power of action, okay? You can note that down. Label being the look, the collateral, the websites, the building, the dress that I wear. You want to look how your brand has defined you. But you can look everything and have absolutely no meaning alluded to you. Do you understand? So look, it's label times meaning. Assuming if I don't attach any meaning to you, Beatrice. So if I put 10, you look beautiful, you have a beautiful hairstyle, you have a beautiful office, you've got a beautiful, I don't know, all of that aesthetic value, put a 10. If I don't put any meaning to you, put a 0. What is the brand that we're delivering on? 10 times 0.
0.
Exactly. Okay? Okay? But if I put label at 7 and I put meaning at 5, what brand do we have?
A brand 35.
There you go. To the power of action. So at a corporate level, the power of action is, what do we get the shareholders to do? Do they need to recapitalize the business? What power of action is, what does the board need to do? What does management need to do? What do employees need to do? Got it? So these activators deliver the brand. At a personal level, that same principle, if not more, is needed. So what are the triggers for you to deliver on your personal brand? What is your accountability team telling you? What does your Bible study group tell you? What are your children feeding back to you, so that you are staying true to the definition of what you have decided? Your label will always be this, times the meaning that I want to keep driving every day. I want to be about women's economic empowerment. I want to be about youth development. I want to be about children living with special needs, period. So to your question, you are part of the collective. When we have a weak Beatrice, it affects negatively the brand of Strathmore.
True.
And that's why you must be part of a blueprint. You're reading from the same craft. What does our label say? And what is the meaning that we want Strathmore to be known for?
True. Incredible. I find that most of the times that the people that we refer to as brands are actually fairly public figures, you see. You know, we hear about them, we read about them, we talk about them. They've done things, they've said things. But questions that I have heard asked over and over again, especially about people who are introverted, or people who are quiet, or people who really value their privacy. Is it still possible to build a brand when you're not out there, or when you don't want to be on social media? How do you balance that, you know, when you bring in your personality and just make sure that you're not too out there, but then you are still a brand?
Well, we are all brands to somebody. Got it?
Yeah.
Think about all the businesses that are registered at the Business Registration Services of Kenya. Previously companies registry. They must be in the hundreds. But to be honest, we only know of some.
Yeah.
Got it? So it's back to, what do you want? What's your agenda? What's the plan? If the plan is, as long as my introverted nature is delivering some few calls for consultancy, I can be invited to my church group, I can go to a community initiative, and that's just enough, that's good. Nobody said we all need to be bold, audacious, highly positioned brands. So it's a personal choice. But for those who make a personal choice to build a strong personal brand, these are the attributes that I was sharing. It doesn't in any way demean one who would rather just continue saliently, but delivering at their personal brand level what it is they have purposed for themselves. So no pressure, except that perhaps those who are more overt, more visible, you said we see them, we hear them, that's communication, and we talked about personal brand must be articulated. They are the ones who will stand a higher chance of recognition, of visibility, of understanding en masse more than the others, if that's helping the understanding.
True. Amazing. Thank you very much, Eva. I want to turn to some questions from the audience. And Maya Shah asks, how can you create your personal brand statement if you aren't sure on what you want to do or be?
Oh, wow.
And I think that links very closely with the question that Nyabura had asked earlier. And Nyabura says, where do I start? Where do I start in this whole story?
Okay. So it would be important for one to do a personal SWOT. What am I good at? What makes me happy? What is my gifting? What are my strengths? You know, what are my constraints? What are my challenges? Then externally look around and see where are the opportunities. You know, there's this opportunity here, or what is the market looking for? What's my boss looking for? What's my company looking for? Okay. And what threatens me? Or maybe what threatens me is I may need to go back to Strathmore and get my MBA. I had to plug Strathmore so they can invite me for another session another day. Or I may need to take thank you. I may need to take a course, or I need to fix something about my personality. Maybe I need a coach. Maybe I'm a little, loud in the meeting. Maybe I need to taper down. So you need to start from a self-evaluation. And then ask yourself, can I leverage on my strengths? Can I? And maybe the answer is yes. What do I need to do to leverage on my strengths? Okay. And how do I taper down on the things that constrain me? So I think that's really where to start, to figure out me, okay, me as Nyambura, me as Maya, and then begin to develop something perhaps the next 3 years. Don't think into 2068. I was on a WhatsApp group today and a strategy was shared for 2068. And I said, oh my Lord, I can't wait because I'll be 94 then. But anyway, so that's some homework for all the mathematicians on the call. But anyway, it's got to be introspective. Ask yourself, where are my strengths? What constrains me? Where are the opportunities? What is the master plan for government? What is it where do they want to take us? And how does that eventually arrive at me? And can I achieve this through public service? Can I achieve this through private sector? Would this be best realized through a development field, etc.? And then you just begin to scribble and then begin to package it. There are different tools, even online, that can help us to just arrive at developing a personal statement. But you must get to the place where you develop one and follow through, because it's not enough to have one developed and then you don't demonstrate its execution.
Very nice. There's a very interesting question by Nick here, and he was talking about a shipwreck, or to the best of my understanding, when your brand has suffered a dent, it would be nice to hear whether you have suffered dents.
Oh, yes.
And how you recalibrated, to use Njero's word here, how you got back.
I think that's a beautiful question, Jero. And yes, brands do suffer shipwrecks. I think it's going back to the truth of who you are. And if you're talking about a personal brand, it's going back to the truth of who you are, what it is you purposed yourself, and just working through it, because you know you more than anybody else. You just need to call out your strength. And you know what I love, and a lot of this I have picked from Dr. Manu and others like him. I am a beneficiary of sitting by his feet and learning a lot. Fail 7 times, get up 8. Have we been through shipwrecks? Oh my Lord, Gerald, do you have 3 hours? I mean, shipwrecks come in all manner of ways. Shipwrecks come, you wake up one morning, you're executing your business strategy, you sit with a bank, they finance a whole production facility investment for you. This is Color Creations Limited. You're excited because the finance minister of the day is projecting 7.6 GDP growth the next year. So you're investing in higher efficiency production. You've moved your production capability 3 times by this investment. You're spreading into East Africa. I mean, you've got it wrapped, and you've got your ISO certification. The thing that you're now going to wait for is get through the election so that in January we are rolling. I will never forget locking the office on the 22nd of December 2017. And going home with my team, Merry Christmas. We'd even had our Christmas party. And we made this investment, the first time ever in Kenya for a merchandising business to have acquired ISO 9001. And we went and we were all happy to be going. The election, I think, was on the 27th. And then the election was on the 27th. And then the election was on the 27th. Njero, are you still there? And then the election was on the 27th. And Kenya froze. And we were on the brinks of civil war. And first month, January, nobody went back to work. I went back to work tail end of I think early February, all of February, all of January, all of February, all of March, not a single phone call, not one.
What?
And then we received a call, I think April. Jero, it was the bank. They were calling to ask when the payments would begin. Shipwrecks do happen. Be realistic, okay? Scale downwards as best as you can, just get granular, all right? Embed the vision, cast the vision afresh to those who survive the shipwreck. People will run away. People will forget that we had a big agenda going, and that's fine, but there will always be a remnant. And then go retrieve your purpose statement and your agenda and recast it to yourself, remembering that it's the 8th rising and not the 7th falling that is the most important. But come on, Jero, we can have a sidebar. There have been many shipwrecks, even at a personal level. But you just dust up and you just go, man. Life is worth living. Yeah.
I really like that. It's the 8th rising.
Yes, it's the 8th rising. You will fall 7 times. You know, maybe you've just fallen 4. Don't worry, there's 3 others coming. And I can tell you that for sure. There've been many shipwrecks, even at a personal level. But you know, you just, you know, Mike and I had dreams, big dreams. You know, I was only married 7 years. And now I attend girlfriends and their spouse celebrating 25 years, 30 years. You know, I don't go there to sulk. I'm happy, but did we turn it into a pity party? Jero, no time for pity party. Okay,
wow.
We move ahead, right?
Incredible. Nancy asks how one of the major challenges with personal branding is seen like a nice to have, but from your discussion, it is a must to have. How do we intentionally entrench the principles of personal branding so that we can all understand the importance of growing the company called you? And perhaps as you answer that, Eva, it was somebody who was asking, and I don't know where that question has gone to, but whether it is possible to differentiate your business venture and your personal brand. You know, is it possible to differentiate? In fact, is it advisable to differentiate the two? I think it was Ivy who asked that question. So 2 questions there for you, Eva.
Okay. You know, Nancy, and I love your name because my mom was Nancy. The question you ask is a really important one. We must promote the right values societally. We must do like what Strathmore has done, invite such an important discussion to happen. And when Nancy, you build your personal brand, as I am sure you will now go ahead to do, you must get to the place where you will sit on platforms like this and challenge people to do the right thing concerning their personal brand. And then one of these fine days in 2068, as per that strategy document that was shared with me this morning, the consciousness of it will become better known, hopefully. I think what we do, Nancy, let's not try to change the world. Let's just do our little small thing. Now I'm back to Wangari Maathai, whose personal brand is just a giant in the room. Do your little small thing, Nancy. You will inspire, you will motivate, you will cause someone to say, I want to be like Nancy. I want Nancy on my team. I want Nancy's community on my team. I want Nancy's team on my team. I think so. Because what else is the answer, right? And then there was a second question, which was a great one, and that had to do with separation of personal brand and business. The truth of that, Ivy, is that I'm an entrepreneur, and there will be a season in the life of the enterprise that my personal brand becomes so necessary to build the business. But then there comes a time, should the business succeed, and in the next level of evolution, where you begin to intentionally separate the personal brand from the corporate brand. Interestingly, that is where I'm at with BSD Group right now. But I have a dear friend in Ken Joroge of Cellulant Group. Ken began Cellulant when he moved away from 3 Mice. And his personal brand at the time was so necessary to build the blocks of Cellulant. And there was very little separation between Cellulant and Ken. But as he began to bring in new partners, new money, and spread the business across, the strategy must always consider beginning to separate Ken from the enterprise. And then the enterprise begins to go along with Ken playing a back end seat, even though he will still take the podium, to the level that it is now, Cellulant Corporation, to the level that he has now hired a group CEO and has announced that he is leaving the business as part of management. But you will find that the separation, especially at an MSME level, is often the dependability of, and you will think about, Resolution and all these other businesses that we know have been formed by indigenous effort. Let's talk about a business like Safaricom. We were right there in the birthing of it, or some of us. And then we had Michael Joseph, and he grew the enterprise. His personal brand was very important in informing the growth of the brand Safaricom. And then there came one big announcement one day. Michael Joseph is leaving the business and he's handing the office of the CEO to the late Bob Collymore. And you will all remember, maybe on this call, everybody was like, oh, really? Michael can? But then Bob had a very clear agenda, okay? And Bob's personal brand, in the season he was CEO, lent profitably to brand Safaricom. Very different from Michael. But the Safaricom brand has continued. And then now we've got a new CEO in the office, who I'm sure has got his own set plan, and the personal brands may be different, but they will interrelate and lend profitably one to another. There was a time I would say, Michael Joseph is on the screen, maybe you're in your living room, maybe your TV is muted, but just seeing Michael Joseph, then you knew Safaricom is speaking. And similarly with Bob Collymore, and similarly now with Mr. Ndegwa. So I think that would be the way to answer your question, that yes, there is a way to separate, but then there is a way that you cohese it. Equity Bank and Dr. James Mwangi. Increasingly, we are seeing less of James Mwangi today than how we saw it when Equity was being resuscitated from the building society. Then James was extremely a dominant personal brand on the brand of Equity. But now you will observe the institution has come of age, and it can, shadow. Now you can begin to see, if you really analyze, that James, his personal brand is beginning to take a bit of a backseat. Okay, so it is possible, Ivy. but there has to be intentionality in the strategy of the brand to play it that way. We saw it with Microsoft. So it is possible, and I hope that that responds to your question.
Okay, yeah, I think it does. And I think even as the name behind the brand grows away from the brand, I mean, it blooms and kind of develops its own life, you know,
Right.
because, you know, now that we see the former Equity CEO, he's blooming on his own.
Exactly,
literally. But so
exactly.
does Equity, you know.
Exactly, yeah. But
Yeah.
but whoever the crafters of the strategy were, this was all properly thought through. It has to be from the genesis, and you then just mature the brand, and then you evolve it, and then you begin to recede on some elements of the brand.
Yeah, and it has to have gotten to a certain level.
Yeah.
Because then again, I feel if you leave it too suddenly, then it may not, you know.
Yeah, and I want to say to
that
everybody, brand building is not a quick fix. And this is why I'm saying brand is truth. It takes time. There's longevity in it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, I can't stand here and say, guys, I'm about special needs. Oh, really? Show us what you got. You understand? So you have to, it's a time thing. It's a time thing, because brands are not what we say, and that I should have said earlier before everybody dropped off. Brands are not what we say they are. It is what they say that the brand is. Yeah? You can't sit around a boardroom and say, hey, our brand is cool. No. Do the users of your brand agree that it's cool? Maybe it isn't. Okay? Yeah. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Judy asks whether it's possible to have personal branding away from the professional realm, or away from expertise, or away from your job. I mean, like, if you take GSD away from you, is there a brand that is left?
I don't know. You need to tell me. You need to tell me if I walk away. I don't think BSD has built my brand. Maybe, but I was already doing my many things. BSD was crafted on a napkin at Strathmore Business School, but we have had a cordial interrelationship with the business. I don't know if you took BSD away from me, would I stand on my own? The jury is out on that. The jury is out on that. I hope that there would be Eva Muraya, who's not necessarily of BSD group, that it is enough to say, Eva Muraya, know what she stands for. What do you stand for? If we can't say what you stand for at your personal brand level, then we need to work on your brand a little more, based on the principles that we shared.
Yeah. Well, perhaps the way we can tie that up then would be that expertise and professionalism are components. Remember when you talked about components of this brand?
Yes.
So I quickly thought about Blue Band. You know, they were on social media the other day, not for very good reasons, because we all know Blue Band as a spread. But then I think they wanted to spread their tentacles and brought in mayonnaise and they brought in peanut butter. And now the product that actually got them into trouble on social media was porridge. And because it has this big yellow, I hope you were not behind that brand before. So anyway, they got into trouble because people equated that the porridge to sunlight. And, you know, they were saying, you know, there's no difference between the porridge packaging and sunlight packaging. However, then I think, you know, Blue Band as a spread is its own brand. And then as a peanut butter is its own brand. So, you know, I think there are many balls that you can juggle without necessarily sticking to the one, you know.
I'll tell you, there are professionals who probably are in consulting firms. They go every morning, you do your thing, but perhaps on a Saturday and Sunday, you are doing something totally different that is completely separate from your professional life. And on your Saturday and Sunday knows you packaged in a certain way, positioned in a certain way, articulated in a certain way, very different. So yes, it is possible to do that. It's all personal choice. And it comes from what's your personal statement around your personal brand. Once that's figured, then everything else is an add-on.
Super, super. There's a nice statement here from Claire. She says, Eva, you speak very well.
Oh,
do you have
Lord.
any tips for improving oral communication?
Oh my goodness. One might be being old school. That helps. Oh, I don't know. Well, are there young mothers on this call? I want to give it to my mom. My mom invested in my early years, my early childhood, made sure that I read and that I spoke correctly. She was gracious in her correction. She socialized me. My elementary school was spent in a system that invested in good language development. And yeah, so I think the elementary years are very important. And any language, I speak Kiswahili as well. We won't get into that now, but any language, you must invest in the correct grammatical way of speaking the language, because it becomes harder to correct it later. But your elementary years, your first 5, 6, 7 years are really your make or break. That's personal. I have not any research to quote, but as a mother, I then paid it forward with my daughters and made sure that we invested that way. Yeah.
I think that's research enough as a mother. That's the best research.
Yeah.
I think we're quickly running out of time, Eva, and there are many
comments
comments on how much learning people are taking away with them and things like that. But I am very tempted to ask you about, do you know the next big branding opportunity for Eva, or will you wait for it to happen? Are you thinking about it? What's tomorrow like? And I know, of course, tomorrow is in the Father's hands, but what's tomorrow like for brand Eva?
For brand Eva, I have spent the last 20 years doing a lot of voluntary work and have no regrets. And I am at the place where there's a crystallization around the next season. So it's an interesting question you should ask. Without divulging too much, the next many years, because I have to be there at the strategic launch of that 2060, 68, 63. It was 63. I'll be there and hopefully finally on a 6-inch stiletto.
I read one.
At the tender age of 94. I want to be in a space where everything that I have learned benefits the larger community of African women. I would like to be doing much more social impacting work, but one that renavigates into private sector boardrooms so that the private sector begins to drive more good for the world, for Africa specifically. So it's in those horizons, but it will not be a departure from what I have invested in the last 20 plus years of my entrepreneurial life. And that's not to say that I have only worked for 20 years. I worked in corporate Kenya before I became an entrepreneur. But that's on a personal brand level. I think spread it wider beyond the Kenyan woman entrepreneur to the African woman entrepreneur. And I know that that's where I'm going with this. Yeah.
May the Lord keep us all so that we can experience this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eva, absolute pleasure listening to you. And you've talked about sitting at the feet of Manu Chandaria. We were sitting at your feet. The last
my goodness.
1 hour.
So that's paying it forward, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, and I can tell you we've got lots of notes, and we want to thank you very much for your time. So I'd like to hand it back now to Eric Saulo.
Thank you very much, Beatrice, for moderating this session. Thank you very much, Eva, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
I have had a chance to listen to 2 other sessions on branding that you have given on campus, and every time I have learned a lot. It's grateful to have alumni who are ready to give back and to share their experiences and to help others. And this is the brand that the Strathmore University Alumni Association is hoping to build, that we help our alumni through the expertise that we have. We know that you're busy in all the ventures that you undertake, but you made time to be here with us today, created time to be here with us today for preparing this wonderful session. And many people are asking about the slides, the recording. We will share the recording of this session so that we are able to go back and pick out the nuggets of the presentation early. To all those who managed to stay on for the last 1.5 hours, thank you very much for staying on. As an alumni office, we continue to organize monthly sessions, masterclasses like this. So look out for an email from us, look out for our postings on social media about these events that are coming up. Sign up in good times, encourage your friends to join in. Thank you very much, and I hope as we go about building and reinventing our brands, we shall build the brand of the university, we shall build the brand of the Alumni Association. Thank you very much all, and do have a good afternoon, do have a good weekend, stay safe, take care. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. God bless you. Bye for now. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.